All right, we are back after a long break. I had spring break come up, so I'm sorry I'm just not getting back to y'all with another episode, but it's gonna be a treat. I got recruit number 2, Christy, joining in. One of my favorites, y'all. I'm talking about this girl had me rolling with her one-liners. I'm to my nonstop, just kind of some awkward questions and awkward. We're gonna get into it, but I gotta start with this one. I will not forget what we were in the middle of doing something, and you were like, "Yes, are we allowed to curse?"
We were milling, Golden. We were milling. Literally, we need to tell this story off the bat. Okay, Golden, I love you too. Thank you so much for having me on this awesome podcast. You had mentioned when we just finished this that you had this inspiration to create this whole community that was, partially interviewing us. And I was so grateful. I was just waiting for my turn. Life has been crazy, obviously, for all of us doing big things. And it's been really fun to kind of have our group chat going for season 3. But I digress. We're about to punch each other in the face, right? We're milling on this massive Welsh hill or whatever. We don't know where the hell we are. And I get paired up with Lana, and initially, Billy's going over all the rules and all the things that we can do, and my dumbass decides to raise my hand, and I'm like, "Excuse me, excuse me, staff, can we cuss?" He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Can we cuss?" I double down, and he goes, "What did he say?" He goes, "I don't care what you do."
I just remember sitting up to the side and almost lost it, and I thought I was gonna get in trouble for laughing, but I was like,
He wanted to laugh. They were like, "This girl's great."
You had me rolling in on the inside multiple times, but your spirit was so awesome, and I am proud to be on season 3 with you, and we get to dig into the juiciness of what we experienced and why we chose to do this intense challenge. But before we do that, how you doing? What's up? How's life? Have you gotten over the PTSD of being in Wales, being tortured and drilled?
Yeah, man, it took a while. It's May now. Oh no, it's not May. Jesus, it's March.
And we're coming up on a year, huh?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it's starting to remind me of how I started to train. I think I was first asked if I was interested in this show in March of last year. And I was like, "Oh, wow, this is kind of cool." And I thought to myself, let me take this to my husband, who I've really overly explained it was in the military. And so he was like, "Yeah, why not? You could do it." And I was like, you think I could? Like, I'm out of shape. I never work out. I'm not even athletic. He's like, "It's not about that. It's about your mental. And let's go check this show out." And so we started to watch the show together. And then I said, "This is a really cool opportunity." And then they came in with like a quote, like how much they'd pay me. And it was good. And I was like, okay, so now I just kind of, I don't know. Like, I think I really want to do it. It's a really cool opportunity. I'm going to be on Fox and tell my story and just do something unique. And I'm a mom of 2 kids. Like, why would I ever do something like this? Right. So we watched the episodes and Brendan goes, "Come out back. I'm going to put you through your paces." And I was like, "What you mean by that?" So he has me start to jog. We go on a run up and down these hills here where I live in Austin. We live in hill country. And it's hot and steamy. And then all of a sudden he gets me to get down on the ground. He starts going harder and harder on me. Then he has me do what Q told us to do, which they cut out, which was stand against the wall of the garage with my hands out, in a squatted position. And he had me just stand there, and he started to act like DS. And he said, "Okay, stop." He's like, "You're going to do it. You're going to be okay. Mentally, you've got this. And I can try to train you from now till when you've got to leave." So that was what we did. And I agreed to do it. And the rest is history.
Wow. And so how much prep, like how many days would you say you were doing this intense workout from hubby?
Every day. But then he stopped, and I was so scared because once I make a commitment, I don't back down and I get a little delusional. And I was like, no, I'm going home. Like, I'm doing this full on. I got so into it that he would go to bed and I would continue to work out. And he would wake up and he goes, I'm really proud of you. I didn't think that you'd make like extra efforts, and like, I'm really proud of you. And so just like him really kind of saying that really kept inspiring me to go harder and harder. So I did the best that I could. I had 3.5 weeks once we
Okay.
signed on the dotted line. And so production sent us sort of a 30-day prep thing. And come to find out, like, Ali Mano had like months and months of knowledge that this was happening and had been training for months and months with like a weighted vest and all that. But on that, 30-day plan, I started just breaking down the days and trying to do as much treading and water and holding my breath underwater. And so ironically, the water was where I had the most strength. And I came through kind of proud of that. So what I prepped for, I think I was kind of ready for.
I remember like you had the mentality that you weren't going to be broken. Like physically, I would look over it sometimes. I was like, I don't know if she can like do anymore, but you found a way every single time. And like, I know as an athlete, I found myself like, I don't know how much longer I can do this, but you just kept finding a way. And I admire that about you. Like you could tell that your mentality was like, quitting is not an option. I'm going to do this. And like, that shows me a lot, like who you are as a person. Like you are one that loves hard. You try hard. Anything you do, you put your hands on, you're going to give your best effort. And that reminds me of my wife. She's like, my wife cannot do anything half-ass. If she is going to do anything, she's going to do it like it's everything. And so I was like, I was proud, because I would imagine if you're just looking at the eye test and we show up, not many people would have thought you would have made it for as long as you made it. And honestly, you probably would have made it to the end if they didn't make you leave.
Let's talk about that. Should we talk about that now? Later? Yes. When do you want to talk about it?
Let's talk about it all.
Okay. So spoiler alert, guys, I made it to day 8. Or I should say kind of morning of day 8. And what I hadn't realized, because when Golden says like, hey, I don't know how you pulled through, I think I dissociated a lot. And I think that helped me a lot. Kind of just take myself.
We all did a little bit.
Yes. I remember watching your coffin and you were praying, and I wish I would have prayed more, and kind of found that inner like lightness and spirit. But I just kept trying to think of the not quitting as an option type thing, and then I would try to dissociate. So
and aren't you claustrophobic too?
Well, so here's the deal. They ask you what your fears are, and I came back to the hotel, and I think I might have said that when they were doing our psychological eval and all that, but then they asked me again in our interview, and I was like, it's fine. There's no catacombs like here in Wales. Like, what are they going to do? I was so cocky. And when I come home and I say, hey, Brendan, that's my husband. And he's like, why did you say that? You should have said you weren't scared of anything. Now they're going to exploit it. And sure as heck they did. They exploited it in that coffin.
Mm-hmm. They did the same thing with me in water. Like, I can swim and I can do whatever I need to do in water, but I'm not like a great swimmer. And I was exposed in anything in regards to water, from the beehive, from jumping out of the helicopter and having to swim to the buoy. Failed that one. I did okay for the beach workout because that was, just more strength than really anything. But like anything that had to do with water, I was done. In fact, before I lost my shit, which they don't even show in it, they pushed me in that water and I lost it like after the last day of us having to be like held as POWs and be tortured in a way. I lost it. And so it's crazy. Like, we knew cameras were all around, hearing everything we were going through, and we still talked about stuff. It's almost like we were throwing them alley oops to like punish us, because like we would, anything we said was being heard and seen. And then sure enough, they were coming back and using our words against us, but we just weren't able to I wasn't able to figure it out at times.
Really dissociate. It's really strange because Is this your first reality show? Because it's definitely mine.
I mean, yes, this is absolutely my first one, unless you want to call National Football League some type of reality show, which it wasn't for me. But yes, my first one.
Yeah, and so this one's unique in that like they really have these what do they call them? What's that movie where they watch everything? Truman Show.
Uh,
Truman
yes,
Show.
yes, yes,
And
yes.
it's like literally everywhere you go, you don't even notice that there's like behind some weird, netting is a camera looking straight at you. Or if you're changing your clothes and you got your junk out, it's like, oh, wait a minute, there's somebody like, and you've signed something that says that they can't show any of your nakedness in the show, but in the moment, you've got mud all over you, and you're just like, well, I guess I just have to not care. I just have to keep going. And so speaking back of keep going, so I'm going up the hill on day 8, and you know it was
The
a really
Seal Run.
interesting. Is that what it was? I thought it was the fan dance.
Oh, maybe.
Well, that part might have been. He said something about the fan dance, which in SAS they do the fan dance, and it's like 19-20 miles, and it's like just like that, where
Okay.
it's just walking and running. And then I think after that was when you guys got a taste of it, and then they kind of revved it up to do more physical stuff with you
Mm-hmm.
guys with the hostage. What was it? Not hostage, casualty.
Yep. I had to carry
Yeah,
Cam Newton.
they loved it.
Cam,
They thought it was
Cam,
hilarious that you.
Cam Newton at the time was probably 260, 270. On top of trying to carry Bergens, I was like, no, 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 no. I can't do this. But
Hold on, Golden.
I,
You had your Bergen and Cam on top of you?
I started off with trying to hold my Bergen and Cam, and I just realized I couldn't do this. And
Mm-mm.
they was like, give it to one of your recruits.
Mm.
And I was like, okay, thank God. And that's how we got over the finish line, but I was not excited about it. So, all right, I'm going to, this much more than I do because hubby served and did it all. So you call it the fan dance?
I guess so. Yeah, fan dance is that which we were going up that hill the first part. Yeah.
Well, that sure does make it seem lighthearted and not that hard. Listen, fan dance. That sounds like, yeah, something my kids would be doing. It was not that at all. Okay, so we're going hiking with rocks in our packs. You're
Well, that's the
grinding.
thing is I didn't have the rock in my pack. I wanted to help Kyla. Kyla and I were really hurting mentally more than physically after our bee sting the night before. Kyla was just like me. We had that spirit, that magical spirit of Disney that we brought with us, and we tried to be funny and keep it light. And like after that bee sting, I mean, we knew they wanted to break us, which is why I think we were pissed off. And I think that I don't want to speak on behalf of Kyla, but she got a little upset with even you. I think she was like, everybody was on super duper edge. I was kind of feeling betrayed by the DS at that time, and I was like, they don't even want me here. Like got on the stage or whatever, and he was like, you guys are not going to make it. Like after tomorrow, it was like they told us you're gone. But me and Kyla were like, fuck that. Excuse my language. They were like, we're going to leave when we want to leave. And for Kyla, I think she was already thinking, like, I'll go in the morning. And then I think her and Cam had some sort of an exchange, and she talks about it already, where she was like, I'm out, I'm leaving. But Cam was like, no, just come on, just keep coming along with us, because he loved her so much.
Mm-hmm.
And they really bonded. And for me, I was never quitting. That was never going to, that's still, even though they were getting in my head and I was a little bit more scared, a little more trepidatious. So when we're right about to start the fan dance, they tell us and they're screaming at us to put rocks in our Bergens, put them in, and start running. And my dumbass decides to help Kyla. And I'm like, Kyla, I'll put your rock in your bag. You put yours in mine. Well, they tell us stop what you're doing because we just didn't get it fast enough. So each of us is holding a rock instead of having it weighted down in our bags. And the day before, I'd had a 20-pound rock in the bag. So I knew that that little rock I was holding wouldn't have completely took me out.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, nonetheless, we're starting to trek up the hill, or the mountain, and like I've got that rock in my arms, and it's really difficult to start to really push. Like, and that must have been the most uneven. We were on plenty of mountains, plenty of ranges, and all of them were even for the most part. That
Hmm.
one in particular was really like curvaceous, and there was like potholes and all sorts of stuff. Don't you think?
And yeah, it was not only that, but it was also steeper than anything we'd done. I mean, this felt
Yep.
like it was like an incline of just like that, but you were having to take you couldn't have a rhythm. You couldn't have like normal steps. Sometimes you have to step big. Sometimes you have to step small. Sometimes you're stepping on a rigid rock, and
Yeah.
it was a burner. And like I ended up when they asked us to get the rock, I was like, okay, they're expecting me to get like this big old rock, and so I better not come back with like something small. So of course I get something even bigger than I probably should have gotten, to the point where like we were all sore because that beasting at the base was next level. That was the first
Yeah.
time I was like, okay, my legs are shaking. Like I'm like walking funny. That's how sore I was. And so like I went into that day already like struggling, and I
Mm.
just remember, man. I remember like I remember the talk we had online, and I remember thinking like, oh, this is where they're going to try to go get Christy and Kyla.
Yeah, I
This
knew
is the time.
as soon as I heard Kyla, because Kyla was in my way and I had to go around her and I felt really bad about it. I was like, I need to push through. She's right there. And usually we would all bring each other up anytime we could. And they started coming in on us and y'all were in front, and we would always find the rhythm. Like you said, when we would be trekking, I would run and look at everyone in front of me's feet, which was a trick my husband taught me, to like look at other people's feet and keep that motion and just keep going and keep your head down. And then eventually your body just keeps going, right? So this time we were all scattered because of the landscape. And they knew
Hmm.
that. They knew exactly
Hmm.
what they were doing. They're like, let's split them up. The weak will fall behind. So as soon as Kyla goes, I'm done. I'm done, Sab. And I was like, shit. Oh, my kid's in the room. Hey, guys, get out of the room.
We love
I was
kids
like,
though.
oh, they love kids. I love you, but no. And I was like, they're coming for me. They're coming for me. And I thought to myself, I was like, I'm not going to get discouraged. This is my time to shine. This is my time to dissociate as a superpower, but really just to keep going, right? And
Right.
I didn't think that they would stop me, and they did not stop me. I kept making my way up. And so what's weird about it is when I look at the edit and DS Billy's like, give me your armband, I was really close to you guys. I don't remember being that close to you guys. I remember being so sort of exhausted that y'all looked real far away. But what did you see?
Look, if you were behind me, I definitely wasn't looking behind me because they were
Yeah.
on me. They were on me. Come on, number 9. You're supposed to be at the
Mm,
front because I was kind of in the middle of the pack because my
mm,
legs were shot from the day before, and I also had
copy.
this big rock. So I was not even able to look behind. And I do remember because I remember when they said we're going to sit around, I'm like, all right. I started thinking right away, like, okay, so how can I help Christy and Kyla?
You
And
said
then
that. Yeah.
yeah, and I remember them saying, and don't you even think about carrying anyone else's burger. Everyone has to carry their own. I was like, oh,
Yeah, they said don't help anybody. They kept telling you guys,
yeah,
don't help them. Don't help them.
yep.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh no. And so I just kind of, I knew that they were going to try to press y'all a ton, and they did. But
Yeah. I was right
that,
there. I was right there. So I get a lot of people asking me like, why did they take your armband? And I am a little still left with the confusion factor of that, because when we've watched other seasons of this show, the whole scope of the show is to not quit. At
mhm.
least in the US version. And I felt like when we showed up, the actual rules changed, and it was, we can take your armband the season 3. Now we can do that. And I was like shook by that, but I was like, okay, we'll see how far this goes. And because it was day 8, I guess I just was so in the belief of me making it that I didn't
Mhm.
think that they would do that. It definitely took me by surprise. And then when I saw the edit, I was like, oh, I was even closer than I thought I was. I believe that staff is really compelled to create a course that feels like they've curated it. And, I might have gone in thinking like, oh my God, the DS are perfect people and like they're going to guide me and mentor me and all that, without realizing like this is a reality show. Like there are elements of this that are not like selection. And we had discussed it when we watched the other seasons. And so the way that they edit it, it appears like it is real selection. And so you don't see all the production elements of this. And yes, it's a highly uh, selective course, and it's really well done. And DS give it their all, and they believe in it entirely. And even
Mm-hmm.
DS Rudy's like, we tried the best that we can to create this for you guys, this experience for you. But it is a TV show,
Yeah.
and
At the end of the day.
you've got to know that, like, okay, this is not. I'm not actually being trained to go and protect my country. Um, so I think that was a big wake up call for me after I was eliminated.
Yeah. Do you think like if you were actually doing it and had trained, do you think you could have gone through like actual like SEAL training?
I will speak to the show. If I hadn't been eliminated, I don't think I would have quit. And the reason I say that is because when I was processed, you know how we talk. I don't know about you, but they talk to a therapist on your way out, right?
Yes.
That did you get the British guy?
Yes.
He was great, and he said some stuff. I mean, he said some really interesting stuff, and I was like, "Don't tell me this." He goes, "No, you don't understand. We were all watching at headquarters, and when he took your armband, we were like, he didn't need to do that," and we all screamed. And I was like, "Well, what do you mean by this? I'm trying to leave." He goes, "Don't make me feel worse."
The
And he's
last
like,
thing I want to hear.
he goes, "Look, we all knew that you were struggling physically, but if you had made it to interrogation somehow, some way, you wouldn't have quit." And I was like, "Well, all right, okay." Thank
Good
you.
consolation prize, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I'm so proud of you guys though. Like I really do. It's strange how much we bonded and the camaraderie still exists. And I haven't talked to you since we did press day. And it's like no time has passed.
I know, and that's how you know you have a really like unique relationship and friendship, like where you don't speak to each other daily, weekly, monthly, but like when you do chat, it's like the old band's back together. And that's definitely what I felt with you. And I think it really, I don't know, I had a chance to spend a lot of time with you, I felt like, and I got a real good sense of you. And like you always just had such a great spirit to it all. Like you would get crushed, and then as soon as we got in those vans, you not even caught your breath yet, you're cracking some type of joke. And so it helped me, like when I was in my low points, like really struggling, I was able to pull from your strength. And when I was screwing up for pussyfooting, is what they kept saying, I was apologizing. You was like, dude, like, chill, like you're okay. It's all right. Just don't let it happen again. And like we needed that. And like our bonding was like pretty awesome, especially once we got down to like the last, 7 or 8 of us?
7, yeah. I think it was us 7. After Landon left, it was us for like 3-4 days. Yeah.
They had to calm it down then.
That's why I was like, I knew they had to eliminate it. We were even talking like, I think we might all make it.
Right. And like, I know going into it, that was kind of like my goal. Cause I was like, all right, well, there's not like, there's going to be one winner or you receive something for winning. So I was like, you know what, let's see if we can get the most people passing selection, on this episode or season. And
on this season, like make that a new benchmark or something. But
yeah. And little did I know I wasn't even gonna get through. Bummer. Do you think any of like your acting career prepared you in any sort of way for special forces?
No, I don't. I think actually all the things that happened after my acting career was what really prepared me for special forces. I think if anything about the acting stuff worked for me, it was that the rejection and the ability to make light, like the dark humor, like growing up around adults, you end up getting like a dark sense of humor, and then getting that consistent defeat and failure and getting back up and getting back up. It's almost athletic. It's not as physically, like with what you guys have had to endure. But over the years, you start to really find a way to kind of just laugh it off. And oh my goodness gracious, my loves, you're yelling like I told you not to. I should just full DS on them.
Dude, speaking of that, I did that when I got back. When we got back, and my kids were like acting up, I didn't yell at them. I didn't get angry at him. I was just like, hey, London goalie, drop down and give me 2 push-ups right now. And they like, my wife looked at me like, a what? And they looked at me like, what, Dad? I said, give me 2 push-ups. And they would do them, pretty lousy. And I let it slide that time. And then they would do something moments later. And I'd be like, you know what? When I was in Wales, this is what they made me do. I got punished by doing up, downs, push-ups, and I had to stand up against the wall. So now, instead of going to timeout, you go to timeout and you're up against the wall. Put your hands up on the wall, look at the wall, and don't look around. And they thought I was probably psycho, probably.
Yeah. Look, I was worried about you, Golden. I'm not going to lie. Like, I knew that your spirit was so pure and you were such a family man, and I leaned on you so much. We actually had a handshake. Speaking of when we're laughing in the cars, and we had that fun handshake that we did that made me feel so loved and accepted by you and the team, and you're clearly one of the stronger people on the team. So I was like, it's a pecking order, and you don't realize that until you get into this, and you can see that there's this fraternal community bond that our DS and military people generally get when they go through this stuff. So we
Right.
had that, and I was worried about you afterwards. And so, like, even like the way that they were processing, the production has given us like mental health therapy, and they're like, anytime, they're like, in perpetuity, forevermore, if you guys need therapy, like, call on us. And that's so rare for reality shows. Like, I don't think most of them care at all about if your life implodes or you get divorced or whatever. And it's like, they actually, I want to say that much, but the edit was rough. The edit was rough to watch. What did you think? How do you think that they made you seem in the edit?
I thought, I didn't know what to expect. So I went into it with the open mind, and I just hope they didn't try to make me out to be a villain by any means. But
same.
Whenever I left, I do remember like being really delirious. And like, I remember like the psychiatrist and the people who were behind the scenes were like, we thought you did great. You represented yourself very well. We can tell that you are a good man, and you love Jesus. And like, once they said that, I was like, you know what? Whatever y'all show, you guys have told me what you felt on how I participated, and that's all I can ask. There were still moments, literally, there's moments leading up to the show, like that boat incident, that made me feel about this big. Because
Which boat incident?
When
our boat. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because that was not my moment at all. And I was so excited to be like the leader, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna use my football part of it. I felt like we had a mega team, like as far as like pure strength, like we weren't gonna be beat strength wise. And then I look at the water and I'm like, oh no. And I don't know much about boats besides wake surfing on boats and single person kayaking, or
well, we didn't inflate the bottom of the boat, and that's why that contributed to us losing, because there was a whole section that would have kept us afloat and zooming faster that we just didn't know, and that was the thing that I think towards the end, what happened to me was day after day, you start to realize that DS doesn't want you to win. They want you to critically think. And so like when I didn't clear the rooms, and you're working on like limited sleep, limited caloric intake, and like you're starting to your critical thinking skills, it just starts to get really hazy. And so when I didn't clear the rooms and I was with Cam kept reminding me, because we got paired up for several what do you call them, adventures or missions or whatever we call them, outings, field trips, if you will. And we got paired up a few times, and he kept telling me, Christy, you're in your head too much. Just go. And when we did that hostage situation, I tried to do what he told me to do. And I was a little shook by the map they gave you on your arm that they didn't even show in the edit. And they were like, here's a map. And they give you unnecessary information in order for you to sort of cipher, okay, well, if the goal is to save lives, like what Kayla did a fantastic job of discerning, no, I'm going to clear all the rooms. I'm going to take as many people. It was like, she's a boss. And her critical thinking skills are we're so attuned to that being in the moment type thing. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
kind of like what Cam said, like don't be in your head, but you also do have to be still grounded and present.
Yeah,
I
no,
learned that.
and to your point, and I don't know if it's similar in acting and your career, but like I played a game where they told me my schedule, they told me when I was eating, when I had practice, when I could pretty much go to the bathroom, and all of that stuff. And so like you give me direction, I can
Yeah.
follow that direction very, very well. Now, when you give me direction and then you leave it kind of open ended on like thinking outside of the box, there's just not enough time for me to think outside the box. Like, give me the direction, let me go do it. And so, with the whole clean out the rooms, but see, in that scenario, I was like, oh, man, that was too easy to go find this girl that we need to find. There's
Yep.
others. I feel like we should go back in because that was way too easy. And Alana was like, no, let's go. And I just kind of didn't listen to
Alana was told by them, by the way, to start speaking up for herself. I don't know if that made her interrogation. They brought her in and they were like, you really need to start speaking up for yourself if you're going to stay here. She told me that, and they didn't. That didn't make the edit. And so I think she was trying. She even had said, because another thing that didn't make the edit was that they had us line up in the order of who was the strongest and who was the weakest. They did that twice that one day. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
They did it in
Oh,
the
yeah.
beginning and they did it at the end. And at the end of the day, I had felt like I'd done a good job with the gas. And, Alana had kind of had a hard time with that challenge. So I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to be ahead of Alana today at least.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of had to, because they interrogated her, told her like stand up for herself. She kind of like started physically fighting me to get in that spot.
What?
You didn't see that. Yes, you didn't see that because you guys were lined up and all the women on the other side, and there was no moving Kayla. There was no moving. Kayla was like, I'm right here. Don't even try. And so it was just me and Alana kind of like shoving each other. And then Alana went ahead and I think went even further to get through a hole. I don't know, man. It got crazy.
And then I remember Cam at the beginning of the day, he was like first on the totem pole and was placing everyone. And then at the end of the day, some way he went from first all the way to last place.
He chose to. He was dramatic. That man is so dramatic.
I was like, Cam, bro, get out your feelings, bro. Get on back up here.
You said
you're
that.
still one of the stronger ones. Like, he's like, no, man. It's like, gosh, Cam, come on, dude. Oh, gosh, man. So, I mean, we look back now and there's just so many moments like we can look back and laugh on, but like during it, like you said, I couldn't think straight a lot of the times.
No.
I couldn't, but it was also good because like I had never had any time to feel sorry for myself.
Yes.
Like once I got back home, I sat there and like sat back. It was like, why was I just doing this? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, why was I just getting tortured in
You're
water
like, I have
nonstop?
a nice life. I have a nice life. Why did I do this?
Why would I want to have toast and boiled eggs and porridge for breakfast every day with Insta coffee? Why would I want to sleep in fatigues on military beds?
Oh, no.
We got Stuart Little running around in the cafeteria.
Yeah. Stuart Little was the mouse that was one of the co-inhabitants of our castle, our villa, our Welsh villa. He would come and he would try to eat our food. Now, I've been thinking about coming on your podcast for a while, and I wanted to mention a couple things that didn't make the edit that actually I wish they would have shown. So the first thing is that I blew my eardrum out. And do you remember I kept blowing my ears?
Yes.
I blew my eardrum out. And I was worried that I had an ear infection or that I would get an ear infection. So I started I was trying to take pills and I went to the medic. Medic was like, take these horse pills. Now these pills are like military grade antibiotics. And I personally can't really do pills that well. So I was on whatever duty that was. What was it called when you were in the
Duty recruit.
Where you clean up everything. And they start calling you guys, and I'm like, okay, guys, get to the squad bed or oh Lord, see, we don't even remember. We're horrible.
It's been a while too.
the square.
Yeah, the
Um,
parade deck is what I
the
called it.
parade deck, that parade
Yeah.
deck. And so I end up throwing up and into our little like our plastic bag because I had always said, well, we had season 2, you had somebody throw up in the most iconic way. Do you remember that on season 2?
No, not right
It's
at this moment.
season 2, and why I'm forgetting his name right now, but he's like a bachelor, really big, hunky guy.
Yeah.
Did he won with Nick Vial, and
Yeah.
he literally, when he threw up, he projectiled, and Billy made him stand up and do it like in the air, and it's like one of the big iconic moments from season 2. And I was like, oh, I wonder which one of us is going to throw up. And it ended up being me into this
But
little bag.
from the antibiotics though, right?
Yes, it was from the antibiotic, trying to down that and clean up and get you guys on. We had like, a minute left. And then, of course, Stuart Little comes out. And then it's like, I was like, this is just this is magic. This is a magical moment in my life.
Oh man.
Do you remember I hit my knee when we did the hostage situation? I slammed my knee down. It was in a quarry and it was like slate rock and it was all very slick and it was always rainy and moist. So when Billy started to like run with us, he would do things really fast to try to get us off of our groove purposefully. So when we started to run, and Cam's like, every 2 steps of mine is one of Cam's.
Right.
So I'm trying to, match his cadence or whatever. And I slip and I slam my knee down. And, and so, yeah, there was a lot of times that, all of us got pretty messed up. And I don't, and you didn't see that so much. So what you end up seeing in the edit is people just being people and failing from day to day without context. And so I understand and I respect production enough to be like, look, they couldn't possibly show all the ins and outs of what happened. So yeah.
It's crazy. I'm sitting there thinking about the mission that you had to lead after. Let's see. After I miserably failed leading us, they said, "GT, you're out of here, Bob. You're not. You're doing a pretty
they're like,
job.
let's screw them up even more because they thought I was the weakest link."
And then they said, "Christy, you're the head honcho. You're the head honcho." And then we have to go. That was like kind of a beast of a mission too, but it was more fun than anything.
That was fun.
How did you feel like leading that one? Like I caught myself like kind of laughing to myself because like I wasn't gonna like challenge you. I was like gonna do whatever you ask because no one wants to have that person. And this is a demand. This is not a. You were so passionate and so like, it's like I guess the word is like cute or innocent. You get up that mountain right now. I was like
Minnie Mouse.
But it was great. It was great because we won and it worked and we, let you do your thing. But take me through like what was going through your mind as you're trying to lead us on this pretty physical adventure up a castle, essentially.
I think that might have been my happiest day. That next to the helicopter plunge, but you guys, we had this really serious moment in between, and I told you, Golden, like I really cared about you, and I knew that you were really getting upset with yourself for not doing the challenges or winning, even though physically you were fine every which way. It was just that the scoreboard for you was not adding up, and I knew it because I know myself, and so I saw myself in you in that way, and I was secretly like I was trying to cheer you on, and so when they kind of positioned me, I was like, first of all, okay, they think that I'm weak. And that's not the way this is going to go down. I've got all these assets, all these physical, amazing people. We're going to do this somehow. I don't know. And in some ways I was giving it up to God, right? Because it was like, I didn't know what we were about to walk into. I just knew that they made me team leader on this next thing. And they throw you in the cars. You have no effing idea where you are. And we started talking already I think whoever would be on our team, if we managed to get them in the truck with us, we started to try to like talk about, okay, look at us. We're going west. We're going east. Are we going to the beach? You remember that? Are we going to the
Right.
beach or are we going to a mountain? Where are we going? If we're going to a mountain, make sure your, Bergen's extra tight and like, and then even you would be like, Christy, I got your Bergen. If you need me, just throw it to me. And I'm kind of reliving this right now, strangely enough. And so I don't really remember getting out of the car, but I remember them giving us helmets and us seeing these massive castles as we're driving up. And I'm like, oh, what are we going to do with these castles? I didn't think we'd be climbing them. I can say that much.
Same.
Didn't think that. So they make us run up, and I started having that adrenaline of like, I gotta prove myself. So I started talking to Cam. I go, Cam, don't wait. Let's keep because he, like I said, Billy would keep advancing, and whoever didn't make it in front of another person, if you were a part of the team. So I started getting aggressive, and I was like, Cam, follow me. Let's keep advancing, keep moving forward. As long as Billy is walking, we want to be the first team ahead of everybody. So that's when I think we started having a little bit of that miscommunication that we had in the first thing. You were never the problem. Golden, you were only a part of the solution in that situation in that day. And what we basically did was we struggled on the first mountain where we got up the Bergens, and it's okay. Like I didn't even want to think about that as a defeat because I knew there were 2 layers to this.
Right.
And so once we got up, I kind of was trying to sense where Brody was, because Brody was almost like my enemy at that time.
Right.
And so I started seeing the other team as like the enemy, and I really felt like I needed us to have that victory. So when we get up to the next place, Kayla and I start to kind of have like our differences. And I'm winded. I'm really red. When I watched it back, I was like, I didn't realize how dehydrated I must have been. But once we got up there, I had to make this decision. And I want to say that nobody else is going to say this, but I'm going to claim it. I made the right decision to send you guys up there. And it was the only logical decision though for me, to send the biggest guys up there. And then I thought that Kayla and I could manage linking these things together. And because I was sort of thinking it through critically, Kayla was like, what are you doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? And she started to get a little more and more upset about it. And then I was like, I don't want to scream, because I had it brewing inside me. And I was not going to scream at her because I respect her and I liked her. But I was like, I got to do this. We got to win. You got to get out of my way. So I said, you got to go. And I said, and they didn't get this on camera either. I was like, you got to go. You got to go up there now. Get up there. And so I actually kind of had to like strong arm her, and I was like, get up there. So she goes. And as far as I heard DS Rudy say, you got to motivate your team. You got to motivate your team, number 2. And that was all I had to hear, because the way that I saw Rudy was that he was an extension of my husband. He's a Marine. My husband's a Marine. And everything that he did kind of was an extension of the type of training that I endured with my husband back home. And so when I looked to him, it was as if I was looking at a brother of my husband. And I was like, whatever he says, I'm so reinvigorated to do. So like I would say that he was my favorite DS, but only then was he my favorite DS. And then over time, I had different moments that I appreciated different DS. And in that moment, it was Rudy that got me to be like, I'm going to scream. So I started to scream. But wait, did y'all hear me? Because I asked Cam, I was like, did you hear me scream? And he was like, no, I didn't hear you.
I couldn't hear you, but then when I saw it on TV, I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh no,
she
you
really
couldn't
did.
hear me.
I think he might even have pointed. Yeah. Well, what you were, I might have heard you a little bit, but I was up there working my tail off trying to pull those heavy tins up as fast as I could, because I felt like we were losing, and I was like, I'd be damned if we about to go 0-2 today.
Exactly.
Like
we had a shared consciousness. Was Kayla helping you when she was up there too? Was she pulling it hard too?
I don't know. Like, I had tunnel vision. We were so locked in trying to like pull it. And it was like the people around us really weren't explaining to us like how to do it. We just had to figure it out. So I'm on the edge, not clipped in, putting it out on the line. Like,
oh my gosh, that's right. You weren't even clipped in.
But I was not going to go down. I tell you that. I was not about to go down and die. But I
So
was
then
not
I don't really know if I led us to victory as much as I just sent you guys up, and that seemed like the rational thing. And then what I will say is that the other team did not do that. Like Brody stayed behind when he probably should have gone up. But based on strength alone, we still should have won that challenge anyway because you guys had it, and it was just a matter of me just trying to lock in myself. Um, and maybe the screaming kept me more like present. I think maybe the screaming was like therapeutic for me. So it helped me get everything linked and like kept going without, because I'll tell you, that was no easy feat. Like some of those things, like I would do 2 and 3 at a time. Then I had to send the Bergens up and you guys got those up. It was crazy, man. I don't even know if people are listening to this. There's no structure to our conversation today, but we are definitely reliving this in real time.
a
And
lot of it.
if you're a fan of the show, like this is what it's like to be a part of it. And like right now, I think they're casting season 4, and I won't say who, but I got a DM today from a really special person who was like, I was waiting. Okay. I was waiting to be like, is someone going to reach out? Because it's about that time of year. And somebody reached out. And they were like, hey, I want to know about, what the show's about. And I was like, I got you.
Oh yeah, spill the tea, please. Give
Yeah,
them the
but
best
in the
chance.
best way. In the best
but
way.
But it's gonna be completely different from ours. Like because they know everyone's gonna watch the seasons.
Yep,
As
they
much as
know.
they can. And like you might know, only thing you might know is like maybe you're gonna get tear gassed again or you're gonna fight, but that's really it. You don't know if you're gonna be in desert or what terrain you're gonna be in, and that's like
You want my theory?
scary.
You want my theory? I know nothing. Okay, I know nothing. This is my theory. It is a completely naive theory, but recently DS Rudy was on a podcast and he said something about this new season would be in a different climate. Now, from what I think is that season 4 is going to be in the desert, or not the desert, the jungle, because because they had ice, they had heat, they had wet, and now I'm like, the SAS does very different environments to train people, and they haven't done jungle yet. And when I told my husband, I was like, babe, I think it's going to be the jungle. He goes, oh my God, that's going to be so awful.
Why is it going to be so awful, you think?
I wanted to know. I said, why would it be so awful? He's like, first of all, the bugs. Second of all, the humidity. Like, I think just like the dehydration factor, if it's really hot and humid, and then bugs are whenever you watch one of those like survival shows or Alone or anything, like when they're set in like a Costa Rica or something and they get like malaria bites or they're like itching so badly. Hopefully they figure something out where they'll probably give people like DEET and stuff like that. But I think it's going to be the jungle. We'll see. I guess we'll have to put some money on it.
The jungle, no, like if it's hot and humid, you're not getting any breeze.
Right.
Oh man, I
Wouldn't
guess
that be
I'm
rough?
thankful. I
Yeah,
guess I'm
be
thankful
lucky.
for our season. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was
Jeez.
wet and it wasn't even that cold. I think we got really blessed with that. When people see our show, they were like, "So were you?" But then it got colder as the days went on. Like by the time you were probably being interrogated, it was getting colder.
It was freezing. Nipples were razor blades. Period. It was so cold. Hurting. Oh, it was bad. It was bad. Like shivering. It was awful. Okay, well, this has been an awesome talk, and I got a few more questions, and then we never even got to check in on like how you're doing. Okay, so if you could vote 3 celebrities to do Special Forces, who would you choose and why?
Wow. That's tough. I didn't think about that ahead of time. I was just looking at something online and Robin Thicke came up. And I was like, that would be really interesting to see Robin Thicke. I grew up with him when he was like, he had the long hair and he was like an R&B singer. He was just totally different than the blurred lines Robin Thicke. And I think there's something about Robin Thicke that, he's been canceled. He's had his issues and he's kind of a Nepo baby. And this show works really well when it takes a person who hasn't had their side of the story really told. And I think Robin Thicke could be cool. I think they did a really good job of doing the millennial kid thing where they had Kyla and they had me. I kept telling Fox, I was like, guys, do that again, because they did that season 1 as well with Jamie Lynn Spears and Beverly Mitchell. And so I think they should get another like Disney person or two, and because those people are people who've grown up with a certain amount of adversity and haven't necessarily shared that with the world. And when they're taken out of their little bubble of California and they're put wherever they'll be, it does test their character. Um, which side note, not to digress, but it's you and me talking. I was a little bummed that Foxy questioned my character at the end.
Was
He
this when
said,
your Bergen was like slightly under weight?
so it was going into day 8, and they were putting basically bets on me or Kyla at which one of us would probably push forward. And and Foxy was like, you know what? DS Rudy was like, I think 2 will push through or at least try. And and then Foxy was like, no, I think Kyla, because I think that if you're going on character alone. And
I remember
I was like, well, what is that about? That made me very mad.
shots fired.
That
Yeah,
was
they had a
shots
few
fired, Foxy.
moments. They had a few moments up in their little whatever they were doing, their little weight room up there, where
Snarky.
talking. Yeah, they were talking some shit about us a little bit.
I knew
I
that was
felt some type of
happening.
way. Oh
I'm
yeah.
sure you did. I'm sure you did.
Yeah, especially like they made Cam seem like he was like the biggest douche to me, and he wasn't really. He just was him. Like he's
That's
just
the thing,
a very
is he was
passionate
actually
speaker.
he was a gentleman for the most part, and sometimes he would play around. He would play around a little bit, but not with me, not with Kyla, not with Alana. It was mostly just Kayla Nicole. And
Hmm.
I don't think he was flirting, but I do think that he was kind of giving her a hard time sometimes. And I always thought, Golden, you were such a gentleman, and you were such an intermediary between all that. That you sometimes I've never really hung out with athletes, so I was like, what can I expect with all these athletes around me? And I was like, well, you're giving athletes a good name because you were such a gentleman.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
and not that Cam was bad. He was just such a bit. He's exactly what you would expect, is like this bigger than life. Like when he's in the room, he's there. And
Hmm.
I told him too, I was like, Cam, if I leave and you get interrogated, don't flirt with your interrogator. Don't try to flirt. It happened last season and it didn't work out for him. So he said, I won't flirt.
Good call. Good call. He kind of got out of there quick. They put him in a chicken coop, and that was one thing that really upset me. How they didn't show me in the chicken coop. Like that was
Oh,
must see TV.
there
Like
you go.
me
You were
sitting there like
they made you an example. I think it was Q that put you in the chicken coop, right?
right away. We just got the
Yeah.
base for fidgeting.
Yeah, he made you an example. It was like prison rules. He like literally was like, "Let me take one of the toughest guys and throw him in the most vulnerable position." And so that chicken coop was yeah, it was crazy. It was awful. But Q knew what he
Gnarly.
was doing. He was like, "I'm going to
Hmm.
take the most lighthearted, like the guy that's seemingly they know how to read us like a book. They're
Yeah.
trained." And so they took this nice guy and they threw him in, and they were like, "This could be you." And it
Hmm.
did scare. I think it did kind of freak everybody out when we first got
Hmm.
there.
My theory was I thought they were trying to like they wanted me to become prideful and like seem like I was too big to get in the chicken coop, and like they tried me right away. Like Q tried me a bunch to see if I was gonna buck up to him and challenge
Hmm.
him, and I think
That's not you. That's
they
not
were
you.
like, well, yeah, and that's not me. I respect our authorities. Like it didn't matter if the weakest person in the world was our team captain. I was going to respect them because they are the team captain. I know what it feels like to not feel respected as a leader
Hmm.
in the locker room or your team or even like in your family. Sometimes it can happen. And so like I was never going to be that guy because it's already hard enough to lead people, especially in that environment. I wasn't going to be the one. So like
Hmm.
I just kind of like had to wear it and be like, all right, well, I'm in a chicken coop. I might as well act like a chicken then. Bark, bark, chicken, chicken. But
That's some stuff I would do. You know it.
yeah, just
Um, second, by the way, second celebrity that I would put into here, because you asked me for 3, and we've been
mm-hmm.
bopping around in this convo. Spencer Pratt, because I actually really feel like he's going to do it. I don't know why, but Brody was such a good like candidate for this season, and his like best friend in the whole world is Spencer. He
Mm-hmm.
was even saying like Spencer would be so good because he incites people. He's got like ways to make this reality television thing like go viral, and he does. I mean, Spencer Pratt's like a known iconic reality guy, but he's also apparently very fit and could probably do all that stuff. That's what Brody said. So my thing is, I think Spencer Pratt could. I don't know this for sure. I want to make sure everybody knows I don't know, but Spencer Pratt. That's my other one.
Okay, that's two. And
Oh
number three.
man, let's just throw Raven Simone in there.
Ooh.
Let's just do it. Let's just throw Raven Simone in there because she's cool. She's amazing. Like who knows what her capabilities are? You know, like if I don't think she would do it. There's a lot of people, who I grew up with on Disney that I don't think would leave their bubble to do this show. So when I saw Kyla, I was like, now that makes sense because she's a
Mm-hmm.
real one. She's a real person. And I wouldn't have thought that she would have ever done the show.
Mm-hmm.
But the energy of that was not surprising to me. And I felt like so beyond grateful that we could have that together where we look across the room, just like you probably did with Cam for better or for worse. It's like you guys kind of got each other on a different level on hard
Absolutely.
days. Like I remember I just want to, guys, I'm sorry, this is going everywhere, but we did a sermon. We sang we sang all this like 90s R&B music together just to keep ourselves like light and the spirit light. This must have been like day 6, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just laughing with each other all the time, and we always made sure that each other had each other's back. Like we'd fix each other's uniforms to make sure that we wouldn't get. So with the edit, when they kind of made it seem like my bag being overweight was the only problem, they omitted that Cam had a bunch of contraband in his side desk, and that was happening that same morning.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't exclusively like my mess up that got us into the bee sting. Um, but we all had each other's back even when we mess up. It was just like
Mm-hmm.
whatever. We're moving on.
I think your bag was probably the least reason where we had the beasting at the base. Like I don't know.
We were gonna do it. That was part of the show. Like
Period. And I don't think
yeah.
that was like they weren't gonna like punish you and make you carry the rock around and also hit you that night with the beasting at the base. So I don't think yours Bergen being underweight had anything to do with the beasting.
The bee sting. Me neither. Me neither. I had a couple people comment to me that I was like, that was my fault or whatever, that Carrie left. And I was like, that hurts my heart because I loved Carrie. And even that morning, Carrie was 100%. He finished everything.
Mm-hmm.
He never failed anything, I don't think.
It didn't matter who his teammate was. He was going to pass it. He was going to think outside the box. And there were so many times where he was the only one out of the whole entire group that would pass the mission and just have so much like silent confidence. Like
yes,
man, what bothered me about Carrie though is that like you had to pull out all this epic stories out of him. Like you had to ask him a question, and then next thing you know, that question, he finally like tells you like how he got engaged and like about his motocross and how many bones he broke. And you sit there like, dude, why do you not talk?
Who are you? Yeah, like, I know.
Just please talk. You're like full of wisdom and full of stories and like stuff. I'm like, my mouth drops. I'm like, oh my goodness. I remember when you sang too. I did not. Okay, so this is the thing. Being on the show, like you don't have the ability to like go off to the side and Google like, hey, who is this person? Like, why are they popular? And like, there was like I didn't realize who Brody was for a while. I just said, man, this is my homeboy. And I said, hey, this is
a good looking dude.
Yeah, just old Ben. I should say he's like old Ben Affleck looking dude.
Yeah.
And then I realized I knew, Kyla, and I realized that you were, Kim Possible, which I grew up watching. Love Kim Possible. Loved Even Stevens. Loved Cadet Kelly. Didn't get around to watching Beauty and the Beast because I was like,
was Broadway. But that was Broadway, so that was like a whole different. Yeah.
Yeah. But like I was like, man, Penny Proud, definitely knew Penny Proud.
Come on.
Had kind of forgotten like what about Kayla, like what her little story was, but was like it made sense like after I figured it out. Then Brody, Nathan, I loved him so much.
Oh, I
Landon
love
Donovan, like, man,
Nathan.
we had such a great cast, but like I
We
forgot
did.
until I would watch the show and see the confessionals, or I guess the not
I
the
had no idea
confessionals.
about Jordan. So Jordan is our gymnast who's a survivor of assault, and I didn't put two and two together whatsoever.
Me
And
either.
yeah, when I watched, I didn't know any of this stuff even because once you know everybody, you don't even Google them because you're like, well, I know who that is. I don't need to know that much more. But then we watched the confessionals. Denise Richards, man,
Mm,
like I honestly thought I didn't know what to think of her. And then I met her and I was like, she's a class act.
so
She's
sweet.
so sweet and so sassy and like full of life and loves her kids,
Mm-hmm.
and one of her kids
Mm-hmm.
is disabled, I think, and like she's got this new
Yep.
reality show, and I'm a big fan. I didn't think I would
Yeah.
be, but she was my big surprise.
I became a fan of everybody like after we left, and like we just like you said, we made some really cool friendships that I will be forever grateful for. And
Hmm.
you got to come to Tennessee so we can kick
Heck
it.
yeah,
We'll bring the
absolutely.
kids,
Yes,
and let's
I would love our families to play and for me to meet your wife and all
of
those things.
course. Let's wrap this up, but let's like focus on you a little bit outside of Special Forces.
Hmm.
You're in the process of writing a memoir. Is that what's? Give me the lowdown on that. How's it
So
coming
basically,
along?
so about the same time that I signed the contract for Special Forces, I was closing another contract on a memoir, and I thought that Special Forces would be sort of like a really great opportunity to add to that experience of life and to kind of have a perspective that's even more unique, right? And so often I think people are like, "Oh, just because you're a kid actor doesn't mean like you've lived like we know that story, right?" But now, as of this year, I've had the craziest experiences happen to me. I'm now a gunshot wound survivor.
Crazy.
And I've been really looking forward to coming on to tell you what happened in terms of my, like, basically after, I'm not going to like be able to go into specifics about everything because it's all out there for people to be able to go and Google if they really want to see it. But basically,
Mm-hmm.
I got hit with birdshot, and I had one pellet or one, what do they call it, fragment.
BB or
Well, it is like the BB's all like, yeah, and then the
mm-hmm.
fragment basically went. The entry point is underneath my. It's behind my eye, and as an actual testament to miracles, it was like right pressed up against my tissue, and then 1 millimeter away from anything critical for me to lose my sight in my right eye. One
Oh
millimeter,
my
which is a pencil
goodness.
tip. It's a pencil tip, and then the other fragment is still in. Well, it's still there, but then another fragment is in my uh, forehead, and I had some in my left ear that went through like a little bit right through. They said, "Oh, you have a new piercing." It's like I don't want that. But when I hit the ground, I took a knee because I was shook. I was, outside when it happened, and like I kind of went back to special forces, and it threw me back to the feeling of I don't know what's going to happen, and this is a serious situation, and I'm taking this
Mm.
very seriously. And I got hit, and then I took a knee, and my husband goes, "Are you hit?" Right? And I don't know if it's the way that he asked me that, but I wanted to answer affirmatively. So I put my thumb up in the air as if I'm still on special forces. I shit you not. I can't even make this up. I put my thumb in the air and he goes, "Oh, you're okay." And then I realize I'm not at special forces anymore. And I go, "No, no, I'm hit." And then obviously I went to the hospital and was treated, and the rest is history. But I wanted to come on here and let you know that it was like special forces kind of prepared me to get hit, and to get through that mentally, and to be cracking jokes in the car speeding to the hospital,
Mm.
and to be grateful that what happened to me was a miracle, and that even if I wasn't present as number two, I can be present as me,
Mm-hmm.
and be present in knowing that this was something that happened to me. And so yeah, I'm truly grateful for the fact that I got to do the show. And then when this happens, as I'm writing the memoir, God does not have any mistakes. God's timing is always right. And I know
Mm-hmm.
now you as a Christian, and I'm, my husband's cracking the Bible because it was hard for him to see that happen to me. And I think he was thrown back to a time when he was serving and whatnot, and he had to really revisit some of that. And so we started to pray a lot more. And I think we're going to continue to do that because life's short and you got to have some perspective and some
Mm-hmm.
gratitude, And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that's kind of where I've been. And all the while I'll be writing this memoir probably until next year it'll come out. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that'll be that.
And what you're speaking about right now is so powerful because you refer to like God and God's how much he loves us. And a lot of people can choose to think like, well, God, why would you let this happen to me? Or you can choose to be thankful that God, thank you this happened to me because now I'm drawing closer to you for one, finding joy in my trials, drawing closer to you. And like, I'm thankful that, like you said, this wasn't something that was like that critically damaged me, your sight or whatever it could have done in the face area. So I mean, that's just a perspective, and like it's one thing. It's a common theme on my podcast when I talk to people. Is like this whole thing about life is just perspective, how you think of things. Like wherever you are, it can be to one person can be the worst place in the world, and to someone else it could be the greatest place they've ever seen. Okay, it's all about how you think of it and how you deal with your situation, and understand that God's going to put us in certain situations around certain people, and our job is to bring them and ourselves closer to him some way, somehow, not understanding why you're here, but understanding there is a reason. And so I'm so proud to hear that this issue has turned into you and Brendan praying together. And I want you just to be aware of like the feelings that you're having and the connectivity you have after you pray, because I think you want to go to the source of connecting and loving. It's knowing what love is, and knowing what love is knowing Jesus. So I'm proud
Amen.
to hear that from you, and not to go into a sermon of, my
No,
Southern
I love your
Baptist.
sermons. Your sermons were so helpful when we were in Wales. I mean,
Thank
they were
you.
beautiful, and you'd write in your book. I mean, you were so inspirational. So thank you.
I didn't want to cry, so I had to find some positivity.
Wait, they didn't even make the edit of Q reading your diary.
No, I thought I was going to get in so much trouble.
We need to do
Okay, so
another episode. There's just
we
clearly
really
so
do.
much.
We haven't even scratched the surface on a lot of stuff we could discuss, but
I'm
that
here.
means you got to come back. You got to come back. But hey,
Call me, beat me, Golden. I'll be around.
let's go. Christy, thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed catching up with you. I miss you. I wish I can give you a hug.
I know.
guess
I
I'll
wish
give
we
you
lived
like a
closer.
Zoom hug. I
There you
know.
go. Awkward hug.
But we will see each other again, and I look forward to chatting with your amazing husband, meeting your babies. I did get to spend some time with your husband at the reunion, and I was very impressed with him, how he carried himself, how he represented his you guys, how he loves you guys, and obviously his perspective from serving. And man, it was just amazing. And again, thank you so much. I know this is like rush hour for having kids. Babies.
Oh
are
yeah,
ready to-
we're good. It's all good. We're on spring break too right now, so
good.
I really do look forward to being here if you need me, and anything I can do to help the pod. Congratulations on the pod, and
Thank you.
yeah, this was a blast. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Showtime with Golden Tate. We had number 2. Christy join us, and man, it was a gift to us. I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you subscribe. See you next time.